All right. Now I think we are finally live. For whatever reason, YouTube, I blame YouTube for this. YouTube is causing some issues here with this. I'll explain that in a second, but let me just make sure we are all set up how I want to be set up. Then we're going to get started in a moment for whoever it is, whether you're watching this on replay later or you're watching it live as it is taking place. Hope everybody's having I'm just pulling up my channel here on my iPad so I can make sure that this is showing what it's supposed to be showing. So right now it is not. Just give me 1 second. Hope everybody's having a great start to your week, or is now we in the middle of the week. We are almost officially at halftime into the second half of this week. So I hope everybody is doing great. And let me make sure I'm in my right channel here. All right, there I go. Current live streams. Okay. All right, so the live stream is live. I'm clicking on this just to see if I can see myself. All right, let me turn myself off. All right, so that is working. Let me make sure where I need to be. One more. Okay, if you are watching this live, you can leave a comment. Let me know you can hear me. Let me know you are here to learn about what we're going to talk about, the 5 forms of investment. And I'm just making sure everything's working the way it's supposed to. I blame YouTube for setting this up this way, that you had to, you can't actually start the live stream until after after the time that you actually scheduled it. So I scheduled this for 11 o'clock. So now I get on here at like 10:58 and I'm trying to start the live, but it wouldn't show me how to actually do it. Then when it gets to 11:05, then it started working. So now that is after 11 o'clock, which in my world, and work on your game world, early is on time is late, and late is forgotten. But this is the way they have it set up. So in the future, I had to schedule these like 5 minutes before I want to start, so I can start on time. But anyway, hope everybody's having a great day. Thank you for joining this live. You're watching this on replay. Shout out to you for watching on replay. I know a lot of you just being in the middle of the day weren't able to come on at the time that it actually happened, but this is a second YouTube channel that I launched. I launched this channel simply because the other channel had a lot of material that I put out over from 2005 to this year. So 17 years worth of material. I talked about a lot of different stuff. And when I was really reading up on the YouTube algorithm, at least the way that it is set up right now, that when you put too many different types of content on there, especially if they are popular, then the algorithm gets confused and they don't quite know where to serve up the videos for your channel. Now, I don't know how a company as technologically advanced as YouTube can't figure that out. That if you got certain sections where you talk about basketball, like I used to, sections where I've talked about relationships like I have in the past, and sections where I talk about mindset. I got stuff where I talk business, I talk social issues, I've talked about anything that was on my mind that I wanted to talk about, I've talked about over 17 years. I don't know why YouTube can't just simply compartmentalize and segment that in one channel, but at the same time, it makes sense. It's like a channel on TV. So you turn on the travel channel, you want to see stuff about travel. You turn on the BET, you want to see Black people. You turn on NBC, you're going to see whatever NBC says there about. MTV is supposed to be something related to music. So the Food Network is going to be food. So I get it. So I just need to create another channel where it'll be specifically about one type of content. And so on this channel that I'm launching here, there's going to be all my personal development and professional development material that I'm going to be doing here on this channel. And that's why I'm doing this live and this video, whether you're watching it live or not, which is on the subject of the 5 forms of investment. So why am I talking about the 5 forms of investment? Why does this matter so much? Why would I launch the channel talking about this specific thing? Is because everyone needs to understand that in order to create the success you want to create in your life, it requires an investment. You can't get something for nothing. All right, we all understand that. We all understand the concept of setting goals. You have the things that you want to achieve in your life. And of course, you go out every day and you work for them. Right. This whole thing is work on your game. So you put in the work so that you can get the things that you want, understanding that you had to do stuff. Right. The concept of achievement in life, the process is be, do, and have. What do you want to have is the goal. What are you going to do? That's the work. And then who do you need to be? That's your mindset and your state and your energy and the way that you show up. And that's the part that a lot of people don't really think about enough. But I'm going to have plenty of material that's going to be uploaded to this channel that I talk about that stuff. So you'll learn about that in due time. But what we're talking about here today are those 5 investments, which is that thing in the middle, that doing part. In order to achieve the outcomes that you want in life, what are the things that you need to do? And that's the 5 forms of investment. So we're going to get into what those 5 forms are, why each one of them matters, how they show up in your life, where you can see them, and how you can start using them consistently in everything that you do. So let's get into this 5 forms of investment. Number 1 form of investment for success in your life is time. Time is the most valuable thing that you have. Time is what makes up your life. If you want to know if you meet a person, you want to know their age, you ask them, how old are you? How many years have you been around in life? And when somebody dies, if they die hopefully of natural causes, we ask, well, how old were they? They were 88, they were 62, they were 55. If somebody dies before their time, like I say, somebody dies when they're 25, or somebody gets in God forbid, like a car accident, or he gets some kind of disease or some kind of accident or tragedy happens to them, they say they died before their time. So life is made up of time. When you run out of time, then the game's over. All of life is done. So time is the most valuable resource you have, simply because once it's used up, you can't get it back. Unlike all these other forms of investment, you can use them, get some more back. You can even waste them. You could even have it stolen from you, but you can go do something and get it back. You can get more of these other things back. Time is the one that you can't get back. So time is the most important investment that you will ever make. So however you're spending your time, that'll tell you a whole lot about how your life's going to turn out. So when you hear people say time is money, that's not true, because time is infinitely more valuable than money. Time is actually life, because you run out of money, you can get it back. You run out of time, you cannot. So the most important investment you're making every single day is how you spend that 24 hours. So ask yourself, what are you doing with your 24 hours today? What did you do with the previous 24 hours up to this point? I started this live at 11 a.m. Eastern today. What have you been doing from 11 a.m. Eastern yesterday to 11 a.m. today? That tell you a lot about how your life is going to turn out, how you've been spending your time. So that's the most important form of investment, your time use, because what you do during that time will help determine all the other stuff. All right. So if your main thing is money or relationships, or you want to make friends, all of those things are based on what you do with your time, right? I mean, to make money, you probably have to put some time into something. If you want to have relationships, you got to put time into those relationships so that you can build a connection with that other person or with those other people. So take a look at how you're using your time to tell you a lot about why your life is where it is right now. And it'll tell you a lot about where your life is projecting to go. Number 2, and this is the 5 forms of investment. Number 2 is money. And these are not in any particular order after number 1. So number 1 is definitely most important. All the rest of these are pretty much equal. So number 2 is money. Money is the one thing, when you hear the word investment, a lot of people immediately default to thinking about money. They're like, all right, well, investment means I got to invest in myself. What does that mean? It means you got to put some money up in order to get something. Or if you have investments, what does that mean? That means you have some type of vehicle that you have put some money into that is now producing money for you on a consistent basis. So form of investment can be financial investment. That can be something like owning a business. It can be real estate that's producing cash flow. It can be you own some type of stocks or bonds or any other type of financial vehicle. These are things that you put some money up at the beginning, and hopefully over time, it produces more money than it's costing. And that way you have a positive cash flow thing, an asset that's putting money into your pocket. But money is only one of the 5 forms of investment, even though, again, many people default to thinking about money when they hear the word investment. It's not the only way that you can invest in life. Because think about this, when you first get started, those of you who are not, you don't have a trust fund, or you didn't inherit any money. So you came into the world with, at least as an adult, you went into the professional world with no nest egg of money in your pocket. You had to kind of make it from zero. Well, you didn't have any money. So that doesn't mean you couldn't invest in yourself though, right? So when you didn't have money, what is the thing that you did? You might have went and did something like traded your time for money. You're going to notice how all 5 of these investments weave together. So when I was a teenager, I worked a whole lot of jobs that I didn't have to pay money to get those jobs. All I had to do was go apply, put some time in, show that I was capable of following directions and doing the work. Hopefully I got hired for the job, and then I would exchange my time for money. So when I worked at Pizza Hut, for example, as a teenager, I would go in and work an 8-hour shift, and I got paid, $5 an hour, whatever the minimum wage was at the time. And then I got my check every 2 weeks. I got a check based on number of hours I work multiplied by my hourly rate, with the government taking in 40% of the taxes out because employees get taxed the most. And then the rest was my money. So I was able to generate money by leveraging my time. So I was able to trade my time for money. So you don't have to have money to invest in yourself. If you don't have money, then you probably have to invest one of these other 4 forms of investment. So that's an example of using time in order to generate money. Another thing you can do with your time is you can sell your time in different ways. It doesn't necessarily have to be at a job. You can sell your time just as a business person, just doing work. So I could be a day laborer, for example, and go and say, all right, I'll work on your construction site for 2 days, and you're going to give me a certain amount of money based on number of hours that I'm working. I collect my money after that time. So I put in a little bit of time, made myself some money. Now I have some money here. So you don't have to have money in order to make money. I know you've all heard the saying, it takes money to make money. Now, that's only a half truth, because if you have a certain amount of money and you know what to do with it, you have the knowledge, you can leverage that money to make yourself more money. But if you don't have money, that doesn't mean you are excluded from opportunities of earning money. I just gave you an example. So you could go you go get a job at CVS or the local grocery store. You put in a certain amount of time. They give you some money. Boom. You just made yourself some money by trading your time. So again, keeping in mind that, yes, money is a form of investment, but it's only one of them. All right. There are 4 other ways that you can invest in yourself besides just money, even though everybody wants money and we need money to live. But you need all of these things in order to be successful. And that's another thing that I didn't say at the beginning here. All 5 of these forms of investment, in order for you to achieve at the highest level in anything that you do, you must put in all 5. You can't be short on any one of them and be successful. In other words, every one of these 5 things that I share, anything that you've already succeeded in life, you have invested all 5. And anything in which you haven't achieved your ultimate outcomes yet, it's because you have not yet invested enough of all 5 of these. You might have invested some, but you haven't put in enough, and that's why you haven't achieved your outcome yet. So you can use this as a basic framework for anything that you want to achieve. So number 2 is money. So we got time, money. Number 3, well, the 5 forms of investment is attention. Attention is in which direction you are looking. All right, when you turn your head and you look at something, what are you paying attention to? I was just driving earlier this morning, and we know one of the things when you're driving, you need to be paying attention to the road. This is why you see all those ads. They don't put them out as much these days, but they still are relevant. Those ads about don't text and drive. And why do they have those ads that say don't be texting and driving? We all know on a basic level, the reason why you don't want anybody texting and driving is because if you're texting, that means you're paying attention to the phone rather than paying attention to the road, which means you might run into another car, you might hit a person, you might run into a utility pole, you might run your car off the road. A whole bunch of bad things can happen because you're simply not paying attention to the road. And it used to say, when those ads first came out, when cell phones first became ubiquitous, a lot of people originally thought that the reason they said don't text and drive is because you only have one hand on the steering wheel and one hand on the phone, which meant it made you a worse driver. But what the actual truth is not about how many hands you have on the steering wheel. You only got 2 of them, but it's actually about how much attention you're paying to the thing that you're doing. So it doesn't have to be texting and driving. It could also be, don't be looking at the radio and driving, or don't be looking too much at the passenger seat and driving. You want to have your full attention on the main thing that you're doing. And here's the thing about human beings. Our attention spans have constricted over time, generally speaking, but we can still pay attention for a very long time to something that we're interested in, something that we care about. So those of you out there who are content creators, for example, if you do any form of writing or speaking and you have been fooled into thinking you need to make things short and quick, short and sweet, because people have short attention spans and they won't pay attention to anything that's longer, or they won't read a long 300-page book, but they will read a 50-page book, or they won't watch a 30-minute YouTube video, but they will watch a 3-minute YouTube video. Listen, is it true that if you make something shorter that you'll get more eyeballs on it? Yes, that is true. At the same time, here's the converse point to that, is that when people only invest a small amount of attention and time into something, they are not as invested in it, period, simply because they haven't given enough of what they have to it, which means, yes, I can get more people to see my 3-minute video, than will see my 30-minute video. However, all those 3-minute video viewers are not as invested in what I'm talking about as the 30-minute video viewer is. In other words, you might be better off getting 10 people to look at your 30-minute video than you are getting 100 people to look at your 3-minute video. Those 100 people, they just come and go. It's just a little quick thing for them. But those 10 people who watch the whole 30 minutes, those are the people who are going to really take whatever the next step is or whatever you're talking about. They are invested. Why? Because they put their most valuable resource, their time, into that thing. Also their attention. But you got to be putting your time in to pay attention to something. So this is why it matters to get people's attention and hold their attention. It's not just having their attention, but being able to hold their attention, especially since attention spans have gotten so short these days. So that's time, money, attention. That's the third form of investment. The fourth one is focus. What is focus and how is it different from attention? Because sometimes people use these interchangeably, but they're not the same thing. Focus is what you are extracting from the thing you're paying attention to. So when you pay attention, to give you an example, has any of you ever, and it doesn't matter when you're watching this, you're watching live or you're watching on replay, have you ever been reading a book or watching a show or watching something on your phone or TV or something like that, and like 3 minutes go by and you realize that you kind of have zoned out, and even though you're looking at the words and you're looking at the screen, you can't even recall anything that got said over the last 3 or 5 minutes or anything you read over the last 3 pages. And you're like, wait a minute, I can't remember anything I just took in. Let me go back. And then you go back and kind of rewatch it or reread what you just looked at. And the reason why that happens is because you lost focus. You were paying attention, but you lost focus. This is like if any of you's ever been in a conversation with another person, or when you were in school and you're looking at the teacher and the teacher is giving a lecture and they're talking, and you can't remember anything that they said, even though you're looking right at them. Is because your brain, your eyes are looking in one place, but your brain is a completely different place. That's the difference between attention and focus. So attention is, I can just be looking at you. All right, if I'm looking at you, I'm paying you attention, but I might not be focused on anything that you're saying. So I could be looking at somebody and you're talking, but I'm thinking about something completely different from anything that you're saying. I'm not even hearing what you're saying right there at that moment. That can happen. All right, that's the difference between attention and focus. So attention is the direction that you're looking. Focus is what are you extracting from the moment? And you might not be extracting anything. Your focus could be in a completely different place. Has any of you ever been, again, in one place, but you're thinking about something that's not even there? Have you ever been hanging out with one person, but you're thinking about a different person? Have you ever been sitting in class in school, but you're not even thinking about what the teacher is saying? Have you ever been watching a video, but you kind of zone out from the video and you start thinking about something other than what's going on? And all of us who are in the professional speaking world, we have to understand, and this is one of the reasons why sometimes I tell speakers all the time, sometimes or all the time, depending on who they are, to slow down when they speak. Because sometimes when you make a point and you're talking, there's 500 people in the room and you made a point. If you move on to the next point too quickly, what's happening is everybody in the room, now they're thinking about the point that you just made, and their focus is going into their own minds about that point. And while they're thinking about that, this other thing that your point triggered in their mind, you moved on to the next point. So now they're trying to listen to what you're saying next, but they're still thinking about the thing that you just brought up in their minds. And this is the difference between attention and focus. And again, here's another thing you got to understand. Human beings can only focus on one thing at a time. So if you give people too much information in a short period of time and their minds get scrambled, let me back up. If you give people too much information in a short period of time, what can happen is their minds can get scrambled simply because they receive so much information that their brain starts trying to process all of it at the same time, but that's impossible. The human brain is the most powerful tool known to man, but it can't do that. It cannot focus on more than one thing at once. So you got to give people one point at a time, one thing at a time for them to do. You give people more than one thing at a time to do. Most people don't have the ability to compartmentalize and say, okay, there's a lot of stuff. I got 10 things here. Let me just prioritize these and do them one at a time. Most people don't do that. What most people do is they'll pick out the one that they are focused on, and they'll focus on that one, and they'll forget the other 9. And then they don't get all their stuff done. And then they're kind of annoyed with you. You're annoyed with them because they didn't get things done. They're annoyed because you gave them too much information. You overloaded their brains by giving them more than what they could possibly handle mentally. Human beings can only focus on one thing at a time. So if you're ever explaining something to a person and it's complex, Explain one piece at a time. Spoon feed it to them like you're feeding a little baby. All right, one spoonful at a time. Don't get them the whole plate and say, figure it out. No, give it to them one piece at a time, because otherwise they ain't getting it. So that's the difference between attention and focus. So our first four are already time, money, attention, focus. Number 5, form of investment. And again, these are not in any particular order except number 1. Number 1 is number 1, which is time. Number 5 is energy. Energy is scientifically is defined as the capacity to do work. That's the definition of energy. And when I say work, I'm talking mechanically, scientifically here. Work means your ability to exert force on an object. So for example, if I pick up this phone, I'm doing work. All right, this is a form of work, because this phone wouldn't move if I didn't do anything. If I didn't pick it up and do this, the phone wouldn't be moving. That's a form of work, mechanically speaking. And the thing is, if I didn't have energy, I wouldn't be able to lift this phone. This phone's not that heavy, right? This phone weighs what, maybe a pound or 2, but I have to have a certain amount of energy within my muscles and bones in order to lift up this phone. Now I got a kettlebell that's 80 pounds on the other side of this room. In order for me to pick that up, I need a certain amount of energy. For me to swing it 20 times, I need a certain amount of energy. So you got to have a certain amount of energy even to move your own body. So when your alarm clock goes off in the morning, if you use one, and you wake up and get out of bed and stand up, you need a certain amount of energy to even stand up. If you're sitting up straight right now, or standing up, or walking, or you can hold your head up like this, but let your head just fall into the floor, there's a certain amount of energy you got to have to be able to do that. If you're standing up straight and not laying on the ground, the force of gravity is pulling us all down towards the surface of the earth. If you're able to stand up straight, there's a certain amount of physical energy you must have in order to do that. To give you an example to illustrate this point, think about a person who's dead. You ever seen a dead person standing up straight? You haven't. They can't. Why? Because all the energy is gone from their body. They don't have any energy. Therefore, if you picture a dead person, what are they doing? They're laying down on the ground. They're not doing anything. They're not moving at all. Why? Because there's no more energy within them. If you're standing up and you're able to move, that means you have energy. And energy, folks, is 85% of the job in life. If you want to be successful in life, one of the most important things you need is energy. You need all 5 of these. That's why it's the 5 forms of investment. But energy is what takes all this stuff and activates it. So if you have a whole lot of time on your hands, think about this, and no energy, what happens during that time? Everybody here has experienced that. You had a bunch of time available to you, but you had no energy. What'd you do? I'll give you an example of this. Let's say you're sick. You wake up one day and you're just really sick. You got a cold. You got some kind of virus. Something's going on. Your body's just not in good shape. You got the whole day in front of you, but because you're sick, you have no energy. What did you accomplish that day? For most of you, the answer is nothing, right? If you're sick enough, you ain't getting anything done all day, even though you had the whole day. You got all that time, but no energy, you achieved nothing. All right. Even if you have a whole bunch of money in your bank account, you got a whole bunch of money and no energy. What can you accomplish? Not much. All right. So this is why you all hear the saying, health is wealth. This is what people mean when they say that, because energy is directly related to your health. If you're in poor health, then you're not going to have great energy. So if you ever known somebody who was in really bad physical shape, maybe they had some kind of disease, maybe they had heart issues, lung issues, cholesterol issues. Maybe they were just obese, very morbidly obese and overweight, and they hadn't taken care of their body for years, or somebody who had cancer, or somebody who smoked cigarettes, or they did something to their body over years, like drinking alcohol, using and abusing drugs, and their body got all beat up. So, but they were still alive, and they might have had money, they might have had time, they might have had attention to give to things, but because they beat themselves up so bad, what did they not have? No energy. And because they had no energy, they weren't able to accomplish anything. They couldn't do anything, even though they had time and they had money. So having time and money is useless if you have no energy to do anything with that time and money. This is why energy matters so much. And energy is not just physical, but let's talk about the physical first, then we'll talk about the other sides of energy. Physical side of energy is about you doing simple things like moving your body, exercising, staying flexible, making sure you have full range of motion in your joints. Taking a look at, so that's the physical side, like simple things like exercise, moving your body around, things like that. On the recuperation side of energy, let's talk about things like sleep. Are you getting a good amount of sleep every night? The average human being needs between 7 and 9 hours of sleep every single night. There are a few anomalies, Again, that's like 95 to 99% of people need between 7 to 9 hours of sleep every night. So if you've been getting by on 4, 5, 6 hours of sleep, I believe you. I've lived certain periods in my life where I was getting by on 4 to 6 hours of sleep. I would take a nap during the day or something like that. Just because you're able to get by on something doesn't mean you're doing good at it. All right. You need to understand the difference. There's a difference between getting by at something and actually doing it in a way that's helping you out. If you're sleeping 5 hours a night and still functioning, again, I believe you. That doesn't mean you're giving yourself the best chance of succeeding. If you could get by on 5 hours, imagine what you could do on 8 hours. Is a biological demand of the universe that human beings get sleep. So this is not something that you can come up short on and say, all right, well, let me only sleep 5 hours so now I can have 19 hours to do work so I can work on my game instead of sleeping 8 hours and only having 16 hours to work on my game. No, that's the wrong equation. That's an inaccurate formula. What you should do instead is let me focus on how I can make sure I'm getting the most out of this 16 hours that I'm awake so I can get my 8 hours of sleep. You shouldn't be cutting into your sleep time just to do more work. That just means you're being inefficient with your work. That's what it means. So it's not about how many hours and time, how much time you spend doing the work, is what you're doing while you're working. That's why the energy needs to be higher. See, understand it's like the chicken and egg issue, folks. If you sleep more, let's say you slept 10 hours, right? So now you only got 14 hours to be awake. And then your colleague, somebody who works with you, they only slept 4 hours. So now they got 20 hours to be awake. You only got 14. Who's going to be more productive that next day? A lot of people think the person who only slept 4 hours is going to be more productive because they have more time to produce. But on the contrary, is actually the person who slept 10 hours, they're going to be more productive. Why? Because their energy is higher. They have an energy level all the way up here because they got a full night of sleep. Whereas the other person, their energy level is down here because they didn't get a full night of sleep. Now, on this one particular day, could somebody's energy be up even if you only slept 4 hours? Of course, we've all had those moments, right? Where maybe you pulled an all-nighter and the next day you still felt good. Or maybe you got this great energy or you got good news happening to you. Or you just have a rush of adrenaline going. So even though you didn't get sleep, you're still performing at a really high level. But remember what we do here at Work on Your Game. We don't talk about just the sprint. We talk about the marathon. We're talking about the long game. In the long run, if you're not getting enough sleep, therefore you're not restoring your body's energy, eventually over time, you are underperforming because you're not giving your body what it needs. The universe demands that you rest. This is a demand of the universe. It's not a Dre Baldwin rule. It's not a Work on Your Game rule. This is a biological rule. You must get rest. If I could give any of you, and most of the coaching clients that I work with, when we first start, one of the first things I have most of them do is one of the first hacks. It's not even a hack. It's a biological thing, strategies that I have people who I work with do, because I work with a lot of entrepreneurs, hard driving entrepreneurs, high earning, high performance people, is let's look at your sleep. And let's look at your exercise. So it's one of the first things we look at, even though they're coming to me for other things. Like I want to make more money. I want to organize my business, et cetera, et cetera. All right. How much are you sleeping? How much are you exercising? And what are you putting in your body? Those are the first three things we're looking at, because those determine your energy. And if your energy's off, I don't care if you're up 24 hours a day. Right? You ain't performing at your best. So instead of looking at it from this direction, let me sleep less so I can have more time to work. No, sleep more so you can be better during the time that you do have. See, if you only have 5 hours a day to work, but your energy is at 100%, you can outproduce somebody who's working for 20 hours a day. Simply because your energy is higher, your focus is better, you're making better decisions, and you'll be better at prioritizing what needs to be done versus just doing stuff just to say that you did it. See, a lot of people spend a lot of time doing stuff just to say they did it, like sleeping less so you could work more, just so you could brag about how many hours that you work. Nobody cares how many hours that you work if your work is unproductive and inefficient during the time that you're working. So this is why energy matters so much and why I'm spending so much time on this. And there it is, time. So one form of energy is exercise. Another form is giving yourself rest, sleep. Another form of energy is what are you putting in your body? What are you putting in your body? Not just exercise, what you do with your body. Sleep is giving your body rest. Nutrition is what you're putting in your body. What are you eating and drinking? This is a big one this is a big one for people of all ages, because nowadays you see kids, any of you who have kids, you've been to the park, you see kids 12 years old and obese. Like, how you overweight at 12 years old? How does that possibly happen? Well, we know how it happens. It's because whoever is raising them is allowing them to put ridiculous amounts of unhealthy things into their body. Now, what's a healthy versus unhealthy thing? I'm not a nutritionist. I'm not going to give you a list of foods to eat and foods not to eat. But here's what I will give you. You are intelligent enough. If you're listening to my voice right now, you're intelligent enough to know what's a good thing to eat versus a bad thing to eat. Can we all agree? All right. Can we agree that potato chips is probably not a good thing for you to eat? Is that news to anybody that potato chips is probably not a quote unquote healthy food? I think everybody understands that. We can all understand and agree that eating some vegetables is probably good for you. Everybody agree? We can all agree that drinking water versus drinking beer is probably going to be healthier for you in the long run. I'm not saying you're a bad person or you're stupid or anything's wrong with you if you eat potato chips or you drink some beer. But you understand if you eat potato chips and drink beer, that's not helping your health. That's not helping your energy. All right. Beer doesn't give you energy. You need to do potato chips. But vegetables and water will probably help you out more in the long run. Everybody understands this. So my point is, when it comes to what you're putting in your body, use your best judgment. That's the point that I want you to understand. Use your best judgment. All right. You understand what's a good thing to put in your body and what's not a good thing to put in your body. And if you can make these smart decisions consistently, it will help your overall energy in the long run. And that's what you need. Again, I remember I was in my freshman year of college. I was talking to one of my teammates, this dude named Phil, and we were talking about like the food that we eat before games and stuff like that. And he was talking about he was going to eat some McDonald's before a game. And I said to him, and at this time, I would still eat McDonald's every now and then at this time. This is back when I was in college. And I made some comment about McDonald's probably not being good food. It's not going to give you good fuel for a game. We all understand that. And he said, well, no, he said, Dre, that's not true. I ate McDonald's once before a game and I went out and scored 30. Yes, I understand. Are there exceptions to the rule? Yes. I could go eat McDonald's right now and still have great energy for the rest of the day today because I got a baseline of not eating McDonald's every day. Just because you got away with doing something that's not smart once does not mean doing something that's not smart is a good idea. All right, everybody follow me? Just because I could go drink some beer, I could drink a 6-pack of beer and then go drive my car across town and come back, not get in an accident. That doesn't mean it was smart for me to do it. All right. Just because you get away with it doesn't mean it's a good idea. All right. This is where your decision-making comes into play. What are you putting into your body, folks? Watch what you're putting into your body because over time, again, if you're 25 right now, you can put pretty much anything in your body and your body's not going to react to it. And now I'm a professional athlete. So when up through age 27, I could pretty much eat anything I wanted, drink anything I wanted. It didn't matter. I go in the gym the next day and I'm dunking. I'm running past people. I'm jumping over everybody. You wouldn't know that I was eating like shit because I was still going out there and performing high. But after about 27, you could start to feel it. If I didn't get enough sleep, I could feel it. If I was eating poorly, I could feel it. If I was putting bad stuff in my body, I could feel it. So understand the older you get, the more this is going to start to affect you. And again, I'm a pro athlete. So if you're not at that level of physicality, it's going to affect you even more and sooner. So make sure you're putting good stuff in your body because it'll help you keep your energy up. Another form of energy is mental energy. And I could talk for an hour on mental energy. I'm not going to. But mental energy is all about, and if you listen to my Work on Your Game Masterclass, my podcast that I put on here on YouTube, I could talk about mindset every day. Mental energy is about how you're talking to yourself. What is your mental, what's the conversation you're having in your mind? And how is it affecting your body? Remember that the mind and body are connected. And everything that's going on in your head is going to reflect through your body. So when you're fully confident, you walk a different way than when you're not confident. You agree? When you're feeling good about yourself, you enter a room with a certain type of energy versus a person who feels terrible about themselves. They enter the room with a different type of energy. Can we all agree to this? If you go out, next time you're out around human beings, next time you're out in public, anywhere in life, I don't care if you're on a train, you're at your office, whatever. I want you to just observe people. Observe people walking around, observe people walking by. You don't even have to be talking to them. Just look at them and see if you can gauge how they're feeling about themselves just by their energy, by the way they walk, by the way they're dressed, by the look in their eyes, by the way that they hold their heads, by the way they make eye contact or don't make eye contact with other people. It'll tell you a lot about what's going on in somebody's mind, just how they carry themselves. And if you get better at reading these nonverbal cues, you'll start to get very insightful about human beings without even talking to them. So this is the mental energy. Spiritual energy. This is about the energy, the aura that you carry yourself with. Has any of you ever been around a person and you didn't know them, but you're conversing with them and something told you like, something about this person is just not right. Something about this person is off. Like, I'm not feeling this person's energy. I don't trust this person. They're saying all the right things, but I don't believe them. You ever been around somebody like that? We all have experienced that. And that's the spiritual energy. That's when your spiritual energy is just in conflict with another person's spiritual energy. Maybe you're right. Maybe you're wrong. Most of the time, you're right. That's your intuition talking to you. And that intuition is spiritual energy. And that energy matters as well. The challenge for a lot of us is because we're on these devices all day, all the time, and we're listening to what everybody else has to say versus listening to our own internal conversations as much as we used to, is that we don't even hear our own spiritual energy. We're not in touch with our instincts. That's another form of spiritual energy, is your instincts. We're not in touch with our instincts anymore because we're listening to everybody else all day, every day. Literally, we're on these things all day. So you need to detach from this every once in a while and listen to your own voice, because that's your spiritual energy. And when you are connected to that, it's much easier to make decisions and do things when you're connected to that. So that's another form of energy. So I spent the most time probably here on talking about energy, but it's one of the most important forms of investment, because if you're not invested in keeping your energy up, then it's going to be hard for you to make investments in anything in life. Anything you want to get better at in life, you got to have energy. So all of these things matter. How you're using your body, what you're putting in your body, how you're thinking, how your spirit and aura is, all of that stuff contributes to energy. Energy is 85% of the job in life. If you do not have energy, most of the job, you can't do it. Therefore, you can have all the resources, all the tools, all the ideas, all the help, all the money. You can have plenty of time and still accomplish nothing. Has any of you ever been that person or known somebody who had a whole bunch of time on their hands? They got the resources, they got the tools, and still didn't do anything, couldn't get anything done? Here's the reason why: lack of energy. So start checking your energy and working on your energy. When your energy is right, you can pretty much achieve anything. So all this said, let me give you the 5 forms again. 5 forms of investment. Number 1 is time. This is the most important form. When you run out of time, your life is over, literally over. Number 2, money. This is the one that everybody thinks about when we talk about investing, and it is a form of investment, but it's not the whole thing. You can get money if you have enough time, if you can pay attention, if you can focus, and you have energy, you can make money. So you don't have to have money to make money. You just need the other forms of investment. Number 3, attention. That's the direction you're looking. Number 4 is focus. What are you extracting from the direction you're looking at, or where your mind is looking at? And number 5 is energy, which is 85% of the job in life. Understand you need all 5 of these to reach any goal. Anything you want to accomplish in life, you got to have all 5 of these. If you try to cheat any one of these, you won't make it. If you don't have time, or you don't put money in, you don't pay attention, you're not focused, or you don't have energy, any one of those you come up short on, you're going to lose. Don't try to cheat this, okay? Listen to this masterclass, my Work on Your Game masterclass, which comes out this will be on YouTube. The new episode will come out the same day it comes out on audio. Will be on this YouTube channel every single day for the foreseeable future here on YouTube. So you no longer have a problem of not putting your stuff out. Now, I don't know if my comments are coming through, or maybe nobody left a comment. While I'm talking, I'm trying to see if I have any comments coming in. I can't tell. I guess I don't. But anyway, all right, we got this going. And so this channel is up. My videos are going to be coming out here. All my personal professional development stuff. I'm going to take all the stuff from the other channel and move it over here, which is a long, tedious process. But you'll be seeing those videos come up over time. Stay tuned and keep working on your game. Dre all day. We out of here. Oh, yeah. Make sure you follow me on IG at Dre Baldwin. I might be doing another live today. Work on your game. We out of here.